When you educate a girl, you educate a nation. But when you empower a voice, you reshape the future. That quote perfectly captures the essence of a big story today, a story of courage, conversation, and change. Across Oyo State, a quiet revolution is unfolding, one that is placing young schoolgirls at the center of education policy conversations. Through structured dialogues, mentorship, and advocacy, these girls are not just learning in classrooms, they are influencing how classrooms are governed. At the heart of this movement is Mayen, the Mentoring Assistance for Youth and Entrepreneurs Initiative, a non-profit redefining youth engagement through education, gender equity, and civic participation. Leading these changes, Ewalua Orowale, the executive director of Mayen, a woman deeply committed to creating safe, empowering spaces where young people, especially girls, can learn, lead, and thrive. Under our leadership, initiatives like the Girls in Education Dialogues are helping Oyo schoolgirls find their voices, shape policies, and hold leaders accountable. It's a powerful story of transition from dialogue to action. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. It's so good to be here today.
Definitely. You look good, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, to begin with, can you walk us through Mayen? How we started, what inspired this creation?
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. So Mayen started in 2012. It came out of a desire. We noticed that there was a gap in education generally, access, learning crisis, quite a number of things. And so we initially started, Mayen's founder, her name is Idem Osai. She started by getting books. She got books from different schools, different neighborhoods, and then she would put the books into her vehicle and then drive to Oyo High School, one of the schools in the communities. And then children from those different communities and neighborhoods would come to Oyo High School and borrow the books. So there was a learning crisis. Education was there was a crisis with education. And so people would learn to read through the books that they have borrowed, right? So, and then by 2012, we expanded and the organization was formally registered. With time, we discovered that there was a gap in education generally, digital access. When it comes to reading, there's a reading crisis as well. So we discovered quite a number of things. And so we basically focus on promoting positive youth development, right? Because Nigeria's youth, that's the powerhouse of any country. Your youth is the powerhouse of any country, right? So for us, we felt like it was very important for us to contribute to the young people in Nigeria so that they can then, we can all see and build the society of our dreams.
That's a very good one.
Yes,
what part of you was interested in this concept? Let me give you an instance. There's a woman called Florence Wapa. She writes about, she wrote about women before she passed, and then she was inspired by the kind of stories she had while she was young and the things she saw. So, what part of you, said that, okay, I want to do this. I want to be a part of this, really?
Okay, so I guess I've just always been interested in young people, right? And when I met with Miss Osai, Edem Osai, it just seemed like there was a connection. There were a lot of young people who needed mentoring. There were a lot of young people who had like zero knowledge of what the future looks like. Like the future was bleak. We have drug abuse. There's so many things, peer pressure. There's so many things currently that is wrong. So many issues that young people face. And so for me, I felt like a lot of girls didn't even have a voice. They didn't even know their rights to start with. Education was a crisis, was a problem for schoolgirls because if you take our culture, our society, and all of the gender norms. So I grew up in a household with two brothers. I was the only girl. And quite frankly, I think my brothers are even a better cook than I am. My parents taught us how to do everything. But by the time I got into university, I realized that it wasn't the same across different households, across many households actually, and that there were some things that were set in place. So I also felt discontented quite a number of times. So for example, my brothers can wake up and go out. I didn't have that opportunity, right? I'm sure that it's the same. If you have siblings, male siblings, I'm sure it's the same. So I can wake up, your brother can probably wake up and say, oh, I will go to Bayo's house today, I'll go and play ball, and then from there I will go somewhere else. But girls didn't necessarily have monopoly of their time. So it was my mom would tell me, not me now, I'm saying generally girls, when you wake up, you have to, girls are trained to be nurturers. So you have to clean the house, you have to cook, you have to take care of your siblings, you have to help your parents with. And while there's nothing wrong with that, it was also important for us to understand that girls have rights as well, right? So most especially when it comes to education, education is a right, it's every child's right. And so in a lot of communities, marginalized communities, there was that gap. If you see a family that maybe they've hit a crisis, a financial crisis, they'll rather send the boy to school rather than the girl. The girls will probably go hawk or support their parents. And then let's not forget child marriages, period poverty. There's so many issues, right? So when I saw the organization, I knew about the organization and I had loved it from afar. But when I joined in, I think that was something that really struck me, how they were committed, how we were committed now to pushing and helping young people really harness their potential beyond just any regular activity or any regular event.
Oh, that's a very good one. Okay, so how has the organization evolved over the years? You know, from mentoring, youth empowerment and engagement, policy, you know, influencing, really.
Okay, so I would say that initially when we started, it was more of something, it was just a passion. It was something, it was a desire. And so we would use like personal funds, rely on friends and family to push. But so far, since 2012, we've been able to impact over 25,000 teenagers, youths, girls, and women.
Impressive.
So, yes. So we've done all of that. We've been able to establish ourselves or ensure that not just the government, right? We've partnered with the Ministry of Education. So for the past 13 years, we've been partnering with the Ministry of Education, Oyo State Ministry of Education, to go into schools. So initially it was community-based, right? I mentioned that we had gone into a secondary school, Oyo High School, and then we had children from different neighboring communities coming to read our books. But beyond that, we have now scaled to go into schools. So we run digital literacy programs. JAMB is CBT, and according to the Federal Ministry of Education, NECO and WAEC would also transition into CBT by 2026. And so there's a digital literacy crisis. So what we started doing is a program called the Oyo E-Literacy Program. So E as in, and so what we'll do is we'll take laptops, we run digital buses, we put laptops in vehicles, and then we go from public school to train these children how to use the computer, so that even if I know what I'm writing, even if I have an answer to this chemistry question, I might have issues navigating with the computer. So through the learnings and teachings that we provide, for the trainings we provide for these children, they're able to basically have like grasp and understanding of how to use the computer, basic digital literacy. You're holding a phone, right? So it's a digital world, basically. And then we've also had programs around women, financial empowerment for women, schoolgirls. This is one of them. So the Girls in Education Dialogues, where we discovered that in 2020, everybody was home because of the lockdown. However, for a lot of private school students, they could still learn online, they could learn remotely. But for public school students, it was a different reality, absolutely different. And so at some point, the Oyo State government introduced the School on Air program, which was aired on BCOS, local news stations, right, TV stations, on radio and television. So the children were supposed to learn at 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. However, in 2021, we carried out a research and we discovered that we went to far places, as far as it's saying Shaki, and then from the number of respondents that we got, the school children that we got, both boys and girls alike, we discovered that a lot of girls couldn't participate in that program for many reasons, but most of which was what I had said earlier, which is girls do not have monopoly of their time, right? During that period, when we asked boys, they said, oh, okay, I participated, or well, maybe I didn't just because I didn't want to. But for a lot of girls, the responses were different. So we heard things like, oh, by 8 a.m., I'm taking care of my siblings, or I'm cooking, or I followed my mom to the farm. It was just a lot, which told us that a lot of education policies, while commendable, right, when they roll it out, it's not, a lot of them are not inclusive, and they do not necessarily put girls into consideration. And so after the findings from that research, we launched this Girls in Education Dialogues project. So the goal basically was to help schoolgirls really understand their rights, and so that schoolgirls can have a voice, right? So they can speak to decision makers, so that decision makers really see that the policies that they're rolling out can be inclusive and basically transformative for all genders.
Okay, I was going to talk about, education, girls and education dialogues, but then you mentioned that already, and that's very smart. Can you walk us through how the dialogues are organized, from school to selection, and then the representation and the resolutions, really?
Okay, thank you. So basically, what we do is we understand that change begins from one person. Okay. And so it cascades down from family to family, household to household, from one person down to a community, and then before it becomes like a wildfire. So one of the things that we really do is we go into schools, 10 schools per year, and then we work with 10 children, 10 schoolgirls across each school. So that's about 100 girls. Okay. We usually target schools across different areas, different local governments in Oyo State, in Ibadan. Right now, we're still focused on Ibadan. So we do that, and then we start with something called capacity building sessions. So the first step is to help the girls really know themselves. Who are you really? Like, in spite of all of the challenges, Toby Amushon was told she couldn't run, but did she let that stop her? No, she didn't. There's so many women who are breaking barriers, they're glass ceilings, and they're shattering them. So the first step is to help the girls really know, who am I? What do I want to achieve? How do I want to get from point A, where I am, to point B or point Z, whatever the case is. There's a woman who really inspires me, Adiola Olubamiji. She shared her story about how she used to sell, I think, akara with her mom under Makola Bridge. And today, she's one of Canada's top 10 females, right?
So really, your background is not a barrier?
It's not, exactly. So that's what we want the girls to learn, right? So we share stories with them. When they know themselves, we now start with leadership, financial literacy. How do you even communicate with adults? How do you even pass across your message? Because a lot of them really feel like they're misunderstood. A lot of them feel like, oh, my parents don't listen to me. If I tell them this is what I want, oh, I want to study medicine, they will probably say, oh no, you're going to your husband's house, so you can't study for 7 years. 4 years is fine. And that's for the ones who their parents even let them go into tertiary education, right? Okay. The children who stop in junior secondary, senior secondary, and then that's the end of their education. So we try to do that capacity building for 10 weeks across different topics. We show them role models that they can see that are very relatable. And then from there, we have dialogues. So we know that the girls do not exist alone. We know that they come out of a community, they come out of families. And so we have dialogue sessions with parents. So focused sessions with parents as well, where we discuss quite a number of things. How do you engage your children? How do you relate with your girls? Can you get feedback? Do your girls even open up to you? For a lot of parents in the past, we've heard them say things like, oh, my daughter is really smart though. If it's about book, don't worry, she knows that one. But when it comes to doing household chores, she needs to find a balance because she's going to be a wife, right? So we had to let them really understand that, yes, it's important to find a balance. But the Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala that we're all celebrating today, if her parents didn't let her study or get an education, then she probably won't be here today. And so many other women that we celebrate, if their parents or if they didn't find a way to get an education, because education is the foundation. So we have these focus sessions with parents. We also engage with community stakeholders. So if you're a community leader, you're a bale, you're a chief, we work with religious leaders as well, because we understand, again, putting Nigeria into context, that religious leaders hold serious influence over families. So I doubt that out of every Nigerian, there's nobody that has with the exception of atheists, right? You probably have a religious leader that guides you. It can be your pastor, it can be your imam, it can be your onisheshi, whatever it is. But the point is, religious leaders hold serious influence. And so we believe that by having these dialogue sessions with them, they can then, that the effect, there's a ripple effect where they can then guide the parents or influence the parents, influence the communities. And then we also, one of the things that we also do is we engage with policymakers, so the Ministry of Education, government officials, and then school leaders, which is very important because school leaders are gatekeepers, right? So you go into school today and then you're told, it doesn't matter if your intervention is going to let a girl or a boy walk on Mars. The point is, if a school administrator, a school leader, maybe the principal or the VP says, you can't have access, then you can't have access to the children. And they will put barriers in place that will ensure that you don't have access. So one of the things that we also do is we engage, we hold sessions with school leaders, teachers, because they're the ones who are engaging, they're the ones who teach these children.
And they spend hours in school.
Exactly. They spend so many hours in school. And so these girls see either representation or misrepresentation. So we've had girls who have said, oh, because of my teacher, I come to school and they're abusing me, see how you are dirty, so many things. These things affect their psyche. So we do a lot of social-emotional learning. We ensure that we teach, we sensitize teachers and other administrators, school leaders on that you have to go beyond teaching ABC. You also need to put that into place so that you understand that a human being is whole. If my emotional state is not right, I promise you I'll probably be here, I'll be staring at you and I might be sobbing, right? So a human being is whole. We have to consider all of the holistic, we have to look at it from a holistic point of view, right? An holistic approach. So physical, emotional, mental, quite a number of things. So we do all of those trainings as well with these dialogue sessions with all of these stakeholders that I've just mentioned. And then we also engage other CSOs, civil society organizations and non-profits.
Brilliant. Because yesterday, I think mine is currently an household name in Oyo State. So I want to ask you this question. Why Oyo State really? Do you have a clue about that? Because yesterday when I posted the graphic, some people were telling me, oh, we're familiar with Mayan, this and that. Is there a clue to that, really? Well,
so Oyo State is dear to our heart. I grew up in Oyo State. Wow. I've always lived my life in Oyo State. I moved back in 2020. Mine's founder grew up in Oyo State. She grew up in the University of Ibadan. Her parents were lecturers in the University of Ibadan. She left and then came back. So yes, Oyo State is very dear to us.
All right, that's brilliant. Okay, so have you seen any of these recommendations reflect in actual government policy reforms in Oyo State?
Over the years, so we launched this project in 2022. And we had a lot of the issues that the girls raised were things like wash facilities, sanitation, hygiene. We also had, again, still speaks to hygiene. We also had a lot of perimeter fencing where school girls said, oh, my school doesn't have a fence. There's just bushes. There are bushes everywhere. And so that's a security breach. Anyone can jump in. And then because we don't have toilets, as a girl, when I need to ease myself, I have to go with an entourage, like 4 of my friends. But if my friends have classes and I go alone, anything can happen. So these were some of the things that were raised. And excuse me, bless you. Bless you. Thank you. So these were some of the issues raised, and I believe that regarding sanitation, it was looked into. So I would use a model school. I won't mention the name. So for a long time, for the longest time, they didn't have water. Thank you. Based on their location. Thank you. Excuse me. And they had written to the government for a while.
Okay, before I let you continue, can we take a short break now?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
We can have in a few times. All right, please stay with us. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we still have more questions. We'll be right back. All right, I'll welcome you back. Thank you for staying with us. I still have my guest with me this morning. We're still talking about how to develop girls, in leadership and the like. So let me ask you this question: can you share a memorable story of a school girl or a school community whose experience best captures the success of mine? Honestly.
Absolutely. Thank you. So yes, over the years, again, through the project, this has been running since 2022. And we had a lot of schoolgirls who were, because when we train our facilitators, we ensure that they're also mentors, they're role models to these girls. And so every time we finish, the girls do not want us to go. So we had a girl who said, oh, she really wanted to be a doctor. She had spoken to her parents, and her dad said no, that medicine is too long. The course takes 6 years, and then you do your residency before you serve, which is a total of about 7 years. If you put strike into consideration, into the mix, that's like about 9 years, thereabouts. And her dad said no, that it was impossible, that she should go study accounting instead. And it was one of the things that she really used to cry to us about, that my dad will never listen to me. He doesn't want to hear it. And so one of the things that we train them on when it comes to communication is for adult communication, identify a moment where your parents are good, right? Think about it. If I'm coming out, I've just had a bad day, and I get home and my child is saying, oh, mommy, I want this. This is what, there's a way that I would react. I mean, not every parent is able to manage their emotions, right? So adults are human beings. And so we try to let the children really see that your parents are also humans, just as you are, right? I mean, as much as possible, while they shouldn't necessarily put their frustrations on you, we have to also give grace for them. So why not have a conversation with your dad? Think about it. We had to let the girl really think about it. So what if, why does your dad think you shouldn't study medicine? Do you have issues with maybe chemistry, biology, or a particular subject that you're not very strong in, that is a science subject? And she alluded to that fact, that yes, she had some issues with one of the science subjects. So we told her, why not try to get your grades up, right? If you get your grades up, you do focused reading. We drew a roadmap. This is where I am. I'm at point A. I need to get to point Z. How do I get there? So do I need to read for 3 hours if I've been reading for only 30 minutes every day? Do I need to read for 3 hours to get to where so that I can get my grades up? Do I need to maybe do some extracurricular when it comes to do I need to take some extracurricular lessons when it comes to chemistry, or that subject that I'm failing at or that I'm weak at? By the time your parents, the person who has some challenges or who is a little bit not convinced that you should be a doctor, by the time they see that your grades have improved, then you can revisit the conversation and say, oh, so I want to be a doctor because I've seen this person. I read about Dr. Ben Carson and I see how inspiring he is. And so I would like to do this. But you've also, as Gen Z say, show workings. You've also put in the work to show or to prove to them that I'm doing something about it. So by the time that had happened, right, so she started, her work got better, her grades got better. And I mean, the last time that we spoke, which was by the time we were finishing the program, her grades had improved, and so she was in a better space with her parents generally. And it's the same for a lot of these children. Oh, my parents said that they don't have money to buy me school sandal, but when I come to school, I will be looking scruffy, and so I'm upset at my mom. Why not find a way to save? If it's 50 naira every day, if it's 100 naira every day, you go to your parents and tell them, oh, my sandal is 3,000 naira. Somehow, I've been able to save the sum of 1,000. Can you support me with the remaining 2,000? There's a way that they will even feel joy that, oh, my child is financially not just independent, but that child even understands financial literacy, right? So I think that's also one of the success stories that we have for the girls. In the end, we saw the girl, she had bought the sandal, she was very excited. In fact, she came to show me and said, Auntie, see, I'm wearing my sandal. I saved money and my mommy bought it. In fact, her mom didn't collect the money from her. Her mom bought it just because she was proud that, well, her daughter had started saving.
Wow, I love that. A truly inspiring story that we have. Okay, I would love us to also talk about something this morning. I've read about it and I'm truly impressed. That is SMRLS, SMOOS. I'm not sure I'm correct about that.
Smiles.
Smiles,
yes.
All right. The Smart Mobile Library with Integrated Services project. What inspired it and how far have you gone in actualizing the goal of setting up 50 libraries in Nigeria, really?
Okay. So Smiles started as, in fact, I think that was where mine even started from.
Okay.
Foundational literacy. We wanted children to be able to read and write. We wanted children to be able to really understand. A lot of children are in school, and there's a learning crisis, by the way. We don't, like, people are in school, but if you ask an average GSS2, in fact SS2 student, to read a sentence and explain it, it's a problem. So according to the World Bank, I think 4 out of every 10 children cannot read or comprehend a complete sentence. That's between the ages of 7 and 14.
Wow.
So it shows that we have a learning crisis on our hands. Children are in school, but they're not learning, which has there are many factors to that: the quality of education, the teachers, the curriculum, so many things, right? But what we really just wanted at our core was for children to be able to read and write. That was it, especially reading. And so that was where we started from. So as at 2023, we had been doing that, but through our mobile libraries in schools.
Okay.
So we would again take books into a van and then go from school to school and basically run like library services. These children could borrow books, and reading really does a lot. It helps with your retention, your core memory. It does so many things for a child, right? You can even your diction. It helps with vocabulary. There's so many things that it does. And so through that, as at 2023, we have a strategy document that we draw up every 3 years, right? So we decided that, oh, you know what, we need to establish smart libraries across, because would you believe that in Oyo State alone, we have, in the entire Oyo State, 33 local governments, we have only 16 libraries. Out of those 16, there are 15 in Ibadan. There's only one outside of Ibadan. And out of all of those 16, majority of them are institutional libraries. So e.g., the University of Ibadan Library. Exactly. So a child can't even go into those libraries to read, because the books are not they're not age appropriate. You go there to read, what are you reading? It's really nothing that speaks to a child. And so we realized that there was that gap. There was a major gap when it comes to learning and libraries. We had library deserts. We currently have library deserts across Nigeria, but we're here in Oyo State, and so that's what I'm speaking to. And if we say that communities are one way, through communities, young people can grow, young people can harness their potential and become whatever it is they want to be. We discovered, or we realized, that we needed to then create safe spaces where children can actually come and learn, right? And so that's what led us to setting up libraries, community libraries. So in 2019, we launched our first library, the Mayan Youth Center. It is currently in Alaka, Ojo. Okay. Yes, and then it serves about 30 communities. So children from about 30 communities come to use the library. Very accessible. Yes, it is. It is. And so we run things. We run things like library support. So they carry out library services, reading support. We have digital literacy learnings, the trainings, and then we also have vocational skills, because it's one thing to read a book. It's another thing to be able to apply that learning. The world is digital, right? It's a global village now, and everybody needs to learn how to use the internet, how to use technology. It's here to stay. And so that's what we do through the digital literacy part, the trainings. But a lot of these marginalized children, their parents are not really concerned about, quite frankly, they just need them to bring in money. They need to increase their income, right? A lot of them are low-income households. And so we understand that beyond just the education, beyond the trainings that we provide, beyond the life skills, which is access to mentors, so we do leadership trainings, quite a number of life skills that these children need, that are very necessary for a young person to grow. We also do vocational skills, so that these children can earn an income. So we do things like wig making, bag making, shoe making, tote bags. Oh, I wish I had one here.
I think that would attract a lot of children.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that way, we've had children who have paid for their JAMB, who are currently sending themselves to schools just through the vocational skills that they have acquired. And then more recently, in April this year, we launched our second center. That's at Elele, but we have now transitioned the first center to a smart library. So we're having smart libraries across communities. Our goal over the next 5 years is to establish 50 smart libraries across Nigeria. The center at Elele has things like, we have smart interactive boards where the children can learn. We have, so the children can do like e-learnings. They have access to e-learning platforms, things like Colibri, things like platforms like Ubongo Kids, where they can watch online and then learn. So it's not just the digital literacy that we're teaching them in. They can also access audio books. So we're also running an e-library beyond the physical library where you can get like hard copy books or hardcover books. We also have an e-library, so you can access different reading platforms where you can choose a book, and then they have headsets, and basically they have access to mentors online beyond just physical mentors. So there's someone in Canada who says, oh, I want to mentor 10 young children. There's a way that changes the mindset. So they experience like a paradigm shift, because if I'm seeing a mentor on the screen and the person is calling my name and sharing their story with me, while it's not physical, it also inspires me to do more, right? It inspires me to think beyond. I might not have been to Canada or Paris before, but I can see someone who is there and who is relatable, sharing their experiences with me. There's a way that it does something for my mind. Oh, okay, someday I can also be there. And so we do all of these things. We provide all of these services for children through our libraries. So we currently have 2, and then we should open a 3rd one before the end of the year. Yes, so we target marginalized communities. Yes, we target marginalized communities. So Elele is the Ojo Alaka is the first one, and then Elele is the second one.
All right, I think you're doing a good job, because I have like great comments from people. But then, can you mention some of the challenges you've encountered in the past, on this? On
the library, or even as an organization?
As an organization as a whole.
Okay, so I would say, I think one of the first things is sometimes it takes a lot of work. So mostly it's a thankless job, quite frankly, because you've uprooted, you're not basically making an income, you've uprooted yourself to pour into people, right? And then you hear people say things like, oh, all you NGOs, you're just doing it because you want to get funding or because you want to get grants. And sometimes it can be very offending or offensive to you, because you're wondering, oh, I'm doing this not just because I want to earn an income, not just because I want to, but because I really want to pour back into lives. Everybody complains. I don't know a Nigerian that doesn't complain. But when it comes to doing the work, nobody wants to do it. But we complain about everything. And so when you see people who do the work, you need to basically give them a pat on the back. So I think that's one thing, but most importantly, beyond that, it's also the barriers that we faced. So when you, for example, go into schools and they say, oh, I've had a principal of a school tell me before that, oh, sorry, we can't let you come into our school for this your computer training. Because if you train the students, they will know more than their computer teacher, and it will be a problem for them. And I was wondering, is your goal for the computer teacher to know more than the students, or your goal is learning? So there are a lot of issues that you face that we see on the field as we go into the field, right? So I think I'm not sure if we have enough time to go over all of the issues, right?
I don't know. I have a feeling that we might need to bring you back some other time to talk about some other things, because I need to understand some other things. But then it's an absolute delight to have you on the show this morning. But then what will be your message, to young ladies who are looking up to you, who have great ideas, but then they are so scared about what might happen, maybe the challenges they might face in the future? You are doing absolutely amazing in this, and I want to believe that you inspire a lot of persons. So what would be your message to people in that category, really?
Well, I would say, honestly, don't give up. So in spite of all of the challenges, whatever it is, you're here for a reason. Everyone in this life has a purpose, a reason why they're on earth, right? So find that purpose and then let it drive you. Every day you wake up, let it drive you. Let it be your drive, and then achieve whatever it is that you need to achieve. You can do great things, and I believe in you. Thank
wow,
you.
Wow, that's awesome. That's so profound. A big thanks to you this morning for joining the conversation. Thank you so much. All right, I think it's a fine place to leave it this morning. A big thanks to everyone who was part of this discussion. The true measure of progress isn't in the policies we write, but in the voices we empower to write them. And that course sums up today's conversation and the remarkable work being done by the young girls of Oyo State who are turning ideas into impact. Through dialogue, advocacy and determination, they are proving that when girls lead, education follows. A heartfelt thank you to Ewalua Orowale, Executive Director of Mayin, for sharing insight on how mentoring, inclusion and education can truly reshape our future. And to every young girl listening, remember, your voice is not too small to be heard, and your dream, just like she mentioned, is not too bold to believe. This has been the big story on Daybreak Live, where we spotlight the people and ideas driving transformation across our nation. Amuluayemi Adelako remind you that the mind has no gender, and real change begins when voices rise above silence. Thank you for being a part of Big Story. We need to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll look at the trend watch. Stay with us.